guess, and maybe I am dating myself, I'm going to guess that this next question comes from a student in the room, but maybe I am wrong. Why do you believe, or do you believe in ending the war on drugs? All right, so I think this is really more of a legalization of drugs question. So, or an ending the war on drugs, meaning should we continue spending federal dollars to support this war on drugs?
Well, I certainly support the movement for medical use of drugs like medical marijuana, for medical use. And you know, it's a new area, and certainly some states like Colorado have now decriminalized the recreational use of drugs. Frankly, I don't know how that's going to work out. So, you know, I want to see how that progresses before I decide on that issue. But I'm certainly a proponent of the use of medical marijuana for medical reasons, medical purposes.
And I'm for ending this war on drugs because there's a lot of financial resources, a lot of energy goes into this to criminalize people. I mean, it's just really a pipeline to prison in a lot of situations. And I feel that if we ended this war on drugs that we currently have, that we could use these funds to actually help to rehabilitate people, to reintegrate them into society. And if you stop the war on drugs as it currently is now, you would actually be able to legislate and control the drugs, and maybe even get taxes on it. And so that would be additional revenue for it. But yeah, so I'm for ending the war on drugs because it's just another way to criminalize people and get them stuck in that pipeline to prison. And then once they're in there, it's impossible for them to get out. You know, people that have drug addictions, it's not a crime, it's a sickness, and they need help and they need assistance, and ending this will actually provide the resources to give them that.
There are still parts of Staten Island that are still suffering the after effects of the cleanup or the poorly done cleanup of the Hurricane Sandy. And I just would like to know from both of you, if you are elected and you get to go off to Washington to represent us, what can you see that you can do to not only address the continuing need for things that need to be fixed, but also future protections against this kind of environmental damage?
Well, first of all, I think that the fraud that we have seen from the insurance companies is not only disgraceful, but it's criminal, and there should have been more prosecutions. There aren't any prosecutions in Richmond County. The district attorney said he couldn't come up with anything to charge them with. Well, you know what? I was a prosecutor for 11 years. We could come up with something to charge them with, you know? So totally abdicated his responsibility as the chief law enforcement officer in the county of Richmond, Staten Island. Because we all know from the investigations that have been done that the insurance company changed their adjusters' reports to show that there was no damage as a result of the flooding. That was fraud, and the adjusters themselves have testified that their reports were changed, and they were done in order to save the insurance company from paying a claim. And that's wrong, and there should be criminal responsibility for that. We need to do a better oversight of FEMA. That's where the federal government comes in. We need to do a better oversight of FEMA because they were supposed to be overseeing the contractors, and they did no oversight whatsoever. And we have to change the procedure by which FEMA operates, and if it takes federal law to do it, we should do it. Because right now, FEMA pays for any lawsuit that a homeowner will bring against an insurance company if they fail to pay on a claim. So if a homeowner sues, it's not the insurance company that's paid to defend themselves. The federal government, your taxpayer money, my taxpayer money, is paid. FEMA is paid to defend the insurance companies. That's outrageous. So it gives the insurance companies incentive to deny your claim because they're not going to pay. If you sue them, they're not paying. It's the federal government that's paying for their defense. That's wrong. We need to change that. If it takes federal law, then we will do that.
You know, we did an investigation. Scott Stringer did an investigation and showed there's a lot of fraud going on here. The problem is, you know, FEMA and Build It Back, they're not building it all. We have luxury condos going up all around the city, and the money that's coming in to help put people back in their homes has been going into the pockets of contractors and subcontractors. And that's something that we need to get in there and fix. We need to investigate it and bring that money back into the homes. One of the biggest things is, as the Green Party candidate, what I'm talking about with our Green New Deal is rebuilding and using these funds to actually strengthen these homes, to lift the elevation of the homes so that they pass the new flood zone rulings that they have. You know, because that's a lot of the problems that they have right now is that they can't rebuild because they have to elevate their homes for the insurance company to say, okay, well now you've done it, now we can do this. But it's at the cost of the homeowner. The homeowner can't do that. The government should be doing this. It's impossible for them to do. So once again, you know, part of our Green New Deal is to create this infrastructure to protect us from these storms and to build something with the public living wage jobs from building this infrastructure.
Thank you both. All right. There are quite a few more bodies in the room than I have actual cards, and I have backup questions, but I always trust my audience. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you guys usually don't disappoint me. I'd like to ask if there's someone in the audience who has a question about a topic that has yet to be brought up. So is anyone here with a particular topic or question for both candidates that they feel was not addressed? Yes, you need to keep it quick and short. Yes.
Carl from Great Hills. On the TPP, we were briefed on before you folks took the stage. So the companies will bring workers in if they feel like it from overseas. The companies that are going to visit. Now, what rate of pay will they pay their workers? Whatever they are accustomed to paying back in the foreign country they show up from, or do they have to follow all laws when they show up here to work?
What will happen most likely is the jobs will go overseas. They won't be here. They will be overseas. And as a result of sending those jobs overseas, it will allow companies here in this country to keep wages low, be below what a livable wage is. And that's the problem that we have because the jobs are going overseas, and that's the issue. So TPP. That's why TPP is bad, not only for the economy. It's bad for the labor force. It's bad for wages. It's bad for everyday middle-class Americans. It's just a bad deal all around.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. That's what we're talking about. And the fact that if you're an organization or a corporation under TPP, you could actually sue another country because if they're cutting into your profits. And this is like something unheard of some country, country being sued from a corporation. So TPP is something that's just really bad for so many reasons.
Why would we lose our jurisdiction over our own country and give it to some international court and have a corporation, multinational corporation, sue us because of some law that we passed that threatens their profit? Yes. And then have to be subject to an international court decision on our territory. We would lose our sovereignty. That's absolutely outrageous.
That's why they're doing Part two, man.
Actually, no, I'm gonna try to get as many voices in the room as possible. Yes, ma'am.
Now, the tax code is skewed way to the rich at the expense of the entire middle class. The tax code, in my opinion, needs to be reformed to help the middle class. What are you going to do to help us with that?
Well, one of the things that they're proposing, and you put your finger on right there, is that the Republican proposed resolution, the budget that they passed, cuts the tax rates at the top, cuts their tax rates down at the expense of the middle class in terms of wages, minimum wage, at the expense of seniors, at the expense of young people trying to go to college. They're looking in their budget. They're cutting college grants. They're cutting Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and they're providing no plan to raise a minimum wage. So all of that is being done at our expense for the benefit of those at the top. So the last thing you want to do is send another Republican down to Washington to increase their numbers. Those are the people that are proposing this agenda, and those are the people that are hurting us and hurting New York. And so absolutely, that can't exist, and I'm certainly not a proponent of bringing those top rates down at the expense of the middle class.
As I said, I think during my opening statement, that we need to tax the rich and the corporations. That we need to. I mean, there's no reason that they're making these profits, these astronomical profits, and all of us are suffering from that. They need to be paying into these taxes so that we can have the resources that we need for our homes, for our schools, for our health care, for our roads, for everything that we need. They need to pay.
Yes.
Question about educational policy and equality through education, public education particularly. In our district, there are definitely, there's an imbalance in the system. I've actually worked in both private and public teaching. So what are your ideas about educational policy reform? What do you think about it today? What's happening? What Republicans have done, say, on Duncan and such, in the United States. So my general question is, what are your views on educational policy?
See, I knew I was right to trust the audience. They ask smart and thoughtful questions.
Well, I am a product of the New York City public school system, and I'm proud of that too. But I see what's happening in the school system today, and it's not good. When you talk about inequality, you certainly talk about the New York City public school system. When you look at what's happening with charter schools versus the schools, the regular public schools, you see that we're spending public dollars at the expense of the regular public schools to prop up and fund the charter schools. There's one school in Brooklyn that I know of, and I'm sure this could be replicated over and over again, that in the same building, you have a charter school and you have a regular public school. It's an elementary school. And on the charter side of the building, you have newly painted rooms, you have new computer equipment, you have a nice cafeteria, and you have the latest in innovation. That's on the charter school side of the building. Then you go over to the regular public school side of the very same building, and they don't have books, they don't have supplies, enough supplies. They are struggling each day to fit the kids into the cafeteria. I'm sorry?
Your district?
It's not in my district, it's in Coney Island, but that's the one I know about, but I'm sure that could be replicated elsewhere. That is really a tale of two systems right there in that one building of the charter schools and the regular public schools. So I'm opposed to using funding charter schools if it's at the expense of money for the regular public school system, because that's what happens when that occurs. And as far as national policy, Common Core, and things of that nature, I think it's laudable to have a goal of making sure everybody learns the same across the country, but it's not realistic when you think about the diversity we have in this country and the different needs that students have across this country. So I think Common Core doesn't recognize that, and we need to change that.
Yeah, where do we start, right? Charter schools is a problem. I mean, I've done a lot of work with helping people in special needs schools. There's one school in particular called Mickey Mantle School in they have a charter school in their building, and the charter school is like a disease, and it's constantly taking more and more resources from the special needs school. They try to take their physical therapy rooms, they try to take, and they're not paying for any of this stuff. You know, and they already have funding from, you know, they do their own fundraising, they have corporate dollars, like millions of dollars, and they're taking away from these public schools. So there's a inequality at this charter school versus public school thing that we need to fix and go into Common Core. You know, the Common Core, in theory, might be a great thing, but right now what's happening is the people that write these tests are not educators. You know, Pearson's there, they just want to write these expensive tests, and it's all about the money. And they're holding people accountable for that, and schools are being penalized for it, they're being forced to close, teachers are being fired. And at the end of the day, is if those public schools were getting a fair shake of funding like these charter schools are getting, those public schools would actually probably outperform, because in a lot of these public schools, they're teaching their kids through experiential learning and not through testings and standardized testings. And there's those children that learn at a younger age of learning by actually learning and creating and doing and having music and dance and all these other programs in them actually outperform the other students when they get to the college age.
Yeah, you're going to create drones.
Exactly. And we don't need more drones in this country.
And I don't know if that should be the next question. Nice to have those answers there. All right, another question from the audience on yet another topic that maybe we have not yet touched on. Yes?
Mental illness. You gentlemen, you willing to budget money for adult people that have mental illness?
Absolutely.
Of course.
All right. Short and sweet. Another question from the audience. Are there students here? Students? All right. Well, we can continue with some more questions. Or yes, ma'am.
This is a question, a different question about drugs. You know, we have an epidemic here in this district of opioid addiction, the highest rate of death from opioid overdose. And I'm just wondering what you think on a federal level could be done. Obviously, we reduced the rate a little bit from what it was, but what do you think we could do?
Well, two things. First of all, better funding of programs that help people who are addicted in that way. And I think the funding over the years has dropped. And we see the result in increased addiction, particularly here on Staten Island. And the other thing is, I think we could do funding to local police precincts, as well as to organizations in the use of the Narcan, which is an antidote to those who are addicted on heroin or overdose on heroin. And if you administer that, and it's very easy to do, and I've done training programs with communities that I represent to train them in how to use this Narcan to administer it to someone who's overdosed. And that administration has saved a lot of lives. And luckily, the New York City Police Department now has that available in every precinct. But we need to do more of that around the country, and we need to do more of that in treatment centers that we have.
And these situations that you're talking about too, I've actually been talking to a lot of people from the communities, and they say, you know, what they need is they need resources in their communities, not just, you know, policing, but they need community centers. They need the children need something to do there. Right now, there's people moving in, and they have nothing to do. There's no community centers open for them. There's no activities. And when you have a situation like that, and the kids are just on the streets, they wind up in bad situations. You know, I don't know where the parents are right now, but these are all issues that if we have the proper funding to the communities to create something for them to do, things for them to create, things for them to build, you know, things will be a lot better. Right now, they don't have a future, so this is what they're turning to. They're turning towards drugs as a solution. And once again, it's something that just shouldn't be criminalized for, but it's something they need assistance with. They need help. And so funding the areas of health, like we're talking about mental health, drug addiction, all these things, would actually help them reintegrate into the system.
I have to wonder, this job is if either of you are lucky enough to get it, or I don't know if one's even lucky.
7 days a week with a lot of travel.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when we think about how much you're gonna earn per hour, I don't know. What is motivating? What is the most important motivating factor to bring you to the decision to run for this office? I mean, what lights the fire in your belly when you think about this job?
Well, I don't like injustice. I mean, I've grown up in Harlem during the 70s and 80s, and I've seen injustices, and in fact, that's why I didn't even vote until I was 35, because I remember going into our elected officials' offices all the time to see what they would do to make a change, and they would do nothing. And so I was looking at voting. They're coming to our house like, you need to vote for me. I'm like, well, why? We've been in your office like every month, and you haven't done anything. I can't endorse you to continue to do anything. And then it wasn't until I found the Green Party and the values and the pillars that we stand for that I was like, oh, this is it. And I want to educate people more on the importance of voting. If you're disgusted with the current two-party system that you have, there's two choices of evil and less evil, that you could vote for somebody that actually represents you better. And just overall, I love to help people get out of a bad place. Like I said, growing up in Harlem, I've seen so many people, family members, die from just being in a bad place, and I don't want to have anybody else go through the things I've gone through in my life.
Thank you.
I have a passion to prove to people that government can be helpful, that government can help people. I've had this passion when I went to the state senate, and I have it now in the city council, and that's why I've been insistent upon having a very strong community office, to have a storefront, not upstairs somewhere, not somewhere hidden in the back of some store. Each time, both the Senate and the Council, I've had a community office of full-time staff, open Monday through Friday, and in some cases even on Saturday, to serve people and to be their contact between themselves and government. And we go to bat for people. We don't always win, but I am committed to going to bat for people and trying to show them that government can work. There's too much cynicism out there. I see it every day when I'm campaigning, and it just fuels my passion to show people that government can be good, can be helpful. And now this opportunity to do it on a federal level has come upon me, and I want to take that passion and take it to Washington, not only to do good for those here, but to advocate for everybody in this country.
We have time for one more question. I'm going to go with whoever had their hand up first, the gentleman on my right.
Dealing with the situations in the Ukraine, Middle East, and North Africa.
Yeah, we do forget that this job is beyond just Staten Island, right? It's Thank you.
Well, certainly what we see happening in the Middle East, there are a lot of cross-loyalties going on in the Middle East, and certainly Ukraine with Russia and Putin is I think is a direct challenge to our country. But with the Middle East, there are so many cross-loyalties that it becomes difficult at times. For example, Turkey needs to get more involved in trying to fight ISIS, but in so doing, they want the U.S. to take out Assad in Syria. But the U.S. won't do that because Assad is friends with Iran, and we want to make a deal with Iran. So there are a lot of cross-loyalties, a lot of cross-interests that are going on. So it's a very complicated situation. But I think what the president has done, at least with the framework that he's put together with Iran and the nuclear deal, deal is a start to getting some framework, some sensibility of what's going on, and trying to get a handle on what otherwise would be a nuclear arms race, and possibly worse. So I applaud the President for this attempt at diplomacy, and certainly I think we should wait until the framework is filled in until the end of June. And in fact, one of the senators, the Republican senator, said, let's not attack the President until we find out exactly what's in what the framework is going to say. So I think that's a good thing. But let me just say in a short answer is that the cross loyalties are causing a lot of the complication there. Bottom line is we cannot allow ISIS to grow, to prosper, and we have to do whatever we can, whether it be Al-Qaeda or ISIS or any of those terrorist groups to grow. Because what's happening is now they're proposing to those in this country that are interested in joining them that they need not even go to the Middle East, that they can create terror here. And so these lone wolves in this country are being told that they can create their own terror here on behalf of these terrorist groups. So these lone wolves become known wolves, and that's how you get the hacking of the police officer in Queens, and how you get the, in many cases, the Sinai brothers and what they did in the Boston Marathon, because you have these people in this country. And that's probably one of the biggest threats in the near future, to try to stop those lone wolves here in this country.
Yeah, I always get nervous when we start talking about terrorists in our country, because we had Timothy McVeigh that did Oklahoma City bombing, and he wasn't tied to ISIS or any other foreign group. So a lot of times when we talk about our foreign policies, it's based around this fear of terrorism. And our foreign policy as a whole is always based on war. And that's something that the Green Party does not believe. We feel that our foreign policy would be much better if we work towards peace and disarmament and actually providing meaningful aid to countries. So a lot of times the United States gets caught up in these struggles and aligns themselves with warmongers. And we shouldn't be doing that. I mean, what we need to do is actually work towards peace and disarmament. I mean, and that will actually help a lot of people much more than these wars against terror.
We've come to the moment where we're going to offer closing statements from each. So, Councilman, George.
Okay, that's great. Well, it's clear, and thank you all for coming here tonight. It's clear we have a void in the 11th Congressional District, in the seat of the Congress member of the 11th Congressional District. There's a void. It's vacant, right? But the way to fill it is not with another void, right? You can't fill a void with another void. Right here, we have a void, right? This is a void right here. Say that to others around for the next week about that. Yes.
Excuse me, can you revoid that? Because the revoid is that Michael Grimm was elected again. So there's a revoid.
Okay, yeah, and that's a good point, because the advance keeps counting the days that we've been unrepresented, and it's 100 and something now right now. I say that they're wrong. We've been unrepresented for the last 4.5 years, right? So what we really need to do is send a message. We need to send a message to Congress and say to them that we're not going to play those politics. We're not going to play the politics of the Republicans who run the House. We're not going to allow them to pursue an anti-New York City agenda. It's a bad budget that they're proposing. It's bad for New York. It's bad for the middle class. It's bad anybody who wants to get into the middle class. We need an economy that has a minimum wage, it's a livable wage. We need to give seniors a chance to live with dignity by saving and making secure Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And we need to make, as we talked tonight, a college more affordable for young people and young families. Saving the Highway Trust Fund. We didn't talk too much about that tonight, but there is a plan that I have to save the Highway Trust Fund and put $120 billion into that fund so that we could repair the roads and repair the bridges that we have here, and then add another $50 billion into a new infrastructure fund that will do new projects like new rail lines, light rails, also ferry services, things that we need. That means bringing federal money home, and that's what a congressman should do. We haven't had federal money in Staten Island since Michael McMahon was the congressman here. We need to do that. So we need to do all those things, and a congress member can do that if they're down there and fighting and advocating. But we also have to have a congress member who will work here on this island to be sure that there is respect built